Hi, I'm George, welcome to GMakes, and in this tutorial we will be looking at some cobweb textures, some spider webs, and I'm not talking about like your classic kind of Halloween, like draw Spider-Man web that's like a circle with all these lines through it and everything. Not talking about that kind of cobweb like Spider-Man. No, I'm talking about an actual cobweb, or like the decorations you get where it's like hanging from something, or like it's a lot of really kind of noise and everything. So that's what we're going to be making. So I'm going to delete the default cube, and I'm going to get a UV sphere, shade it smooth, and then I'm also going to get a plane. I'm also turning on my screencast keys when I'm doing this. I recorded all this and the audio was terrible, so I'm re-recording the audio about narrating what I'm doing, and I also sped it up a little bit so it's a little nicer. This is pretty quick, but I just wanted to go over a couple things. So I've got my setup here. I've got a plane and a sphere. I'm setting up my camera. I set it to my default settings I've been using for a lot of my renders recently, which is I think a 4:5 aspect ratio, which is 1350 by 1080 in HD, or 1080 by 1350. It's like 1760 by 2180 or something in Ultra HD and 4K. So here we go. And we are setting up my camera just so I can see everything. I'm in material mode, and I've got my shader editor open on my right side of my screen. So I'm just going, I just use the default material, I just select it since it's already in there. I rename it webs, and we're getting started. So, first things first, the basic gist of this material is it's just a bunch of noise. We're just going to be layering noise, different kind of noise textures on top of each other. So I'm starting here with Voronoi. I kept saying Voronoi texture, I believe is what it's called. The default's pretty cool, but we don't need it. We're actually going to switch it first from the texture coordinates. We're going to switch it to object, just so it's even for all over our mesh right now. You can mess around with these later. And then we're going to switch from F1 to distance to edge. And this gives us this kind of crackly pattern that looks very cobweb already. But we're going to grab a color ramp and then switch it so that the white bit is the bit we want as cobwebs, and the black bit is the bit we're going to get rid of when we switch this to an alpha channel. So the black is no, the white is yes. We can mess with the scale. You can move those pretty close together. You can see they're messing with the randomness. So turning off the randomness. We do get the circling that is nice in cobwebs, but we're going to get that a different way later on. So I group these together, Control J, and then I name them as Voronoi, is how I'm pronouncing that. So there we go, we get our nice little texture group, and this is something you can duplicate over and over and merge them together. So looking at material, there we go, it's starting to look already like a cobweb, and like no work at all. Like those 3 nodes, we don't even need that many really. And now we plug this into our alpha, but it doesn't do anything. And the reason is we have to go to our material settings in the materials setting tab and switch it from opaque to alpha hashed. You could use alpha blend. I wouldn't suggest alpha clip, because then it's either yes or no. You can't have no control on the in-between stages of an alpha channel. So alpha hash is the one I'm going with. It works in both Blender, or both Eevee and in cycles. Next, I'm grabbing a Musgrave texture. Again, deleting the mapping node of a texture coordinate set, clicking into the object on the texture coordinates, and I'm using a ridged multifractal. Ridged multifractal. There's a couple other things you can mess with depending on the type of Musgrave you do. Again, I'm using the same color ramp technique. I go through a couple of different ones just to show you what they look like. Nothing really is as good as that ridged multifractal. So you can really bump up the scale to make it really small. Dimension, you want to bump down. Detail, you want to bump up. It's subtle, but it helps. And also Lanquati, whatever that is, you can also bump that up as well. And now I go ahead and I group these together and name it my Musgrave texture. But now we want to combine these. So we have these 2 textures, and we want to merge them into one. And we're using just a color mix node. Really simple. I like to switch it to add, so then it makes the white brighter and stand out more, and also get some of that overlap on some of the intersections. And here I am, I'm just messing around with how thick I want that Voronoi texture to be, as well as the Musgrave. You can really mess around with this to get kind of the look you want. And there we go. If we go back, now we have an alpha channel. Now we have a mix of that. And you can also change the factor on this to see how much you want of each one. To really get the which one's stronger and more prevalent in your mix with that mixed color node. But now I want to get some of that spiraling. Here things get a little funky because I haven't actually tested this material on a sphere before. So I'm using a Musgrave, or a wave texture rather, and I have it set to object, which I was like, wow, that's already funky. And then I have it set to what works for most meshes, and also you can see the plane, which is rings and spherical. Now this I really like because if you have moments on your mesh with a lot of points, or just how the object coordinates work out, you'll get a couple different of those like spirals, of those circling bits, which looks really cool. You can also, if you just want it to be like wrapped up, you could choose rings and do X, Y, or Z. You could also use generated if you want a couple like weirder grabby bits. Here I'm just really confused by this because I hadn't done before, and I finally settle on just keeping it on rings, and then I go back to spherical because that's what I use. Or I think I'd change it to, yeah, I keep it spherical, I believe. Or maybe I go back to Z because I didn't get quite the look I want for spherical. But everything else, I use spherical because that works for me. I just also like how it looks on the plane. The spherical, you get that nice dot in the center, which looks very cobwebby, spiderwebby. So there we go. I go back. I mess with the scale. But first I group them together. I name these my wave. I think I named them wave Z just in case I want to add another wave texture. I connect these all up, another mix node set to add. And there we go. You can start to see, again, go in and finick with the width. I also add a bunch of noise. So I mess with the scale, the distortion, the detail, everything like that is what I'm messing with. And I'm just kind of finicking it out and seeing how things look right now. So there we go. I'm finally back, and I'm enjoying how this is looking. I switch it to EV, and it looks pretty good in EV. I move my light around so we can get a little better look at it with that wave texture added in there, that circling pattern. And I add a plane in the back just so we can see the alpha a little bit better. I just color this a red color just so we can see through it. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's just a lot of noise stuff. And now I want to mess around with the alpha a bit because you have the main like webs of the cobweb, but in between there's a lot of gunk going on. It's not just clear. So here I am. I'm moving. I'm messing around, tightening up those little bits with a color ramp. And then I also changed the black, which is the 100% alpha, changed that to a light gray to white. And it doesn't look quite right here. And that's because I have that all the color information from our things, from our wonderful noise textures, also plugged into the base color of my principal BSDF. You also saw I went into my shadows on that settings in the material tab and switched those to alpha hash as well. That will help if you're getting weird or super dark shadows, or you want more of that bokeh idea on the background of light shining through. There we go. I take out the color from my principal BSDF, and now we can start to see that kind of whitish see-through. And you don't actually need that color because you just need the alpha. So now I can go in and you can change the color of your webs. You can make them blood red, Miguel O'Hara red. You can make them white, you can make them blue, you can make them any color you want. And then and that's it. That's the material. It looks, I think, pretty darn good. It's really quick, it's really easy. You could use like a, here I'm adding more Voronoi textures, whatever it is, and Fair Voronoi where we lay our scene. I'm mixing those in, but you can use this for like add a, if you have like a shrink wrap mesh or a shrink wrap modifier with like a cube or a sphere over a mesh, and you want to make it look like it's covered in cobwebs. Use it on a fabric, use it like this as a kind of a bokeh for some light work. Anything like that, it just looks really nice. And here I'm using a noise texture to control the factor of my mix Musgrave and Voronoi texture. So that way it's not all the same, it's not all the one. I use a color ramp to really control a little bit more, but you can see there it adds even more noise and texture and that depth that we really want. Another thing I don't do in this initial recording, which I just remember because I said depth, is add it into the bump. You can just connect the same thing you're adding into your alpha, not the color ramp, but just from the last mix node. Connect that into a bump node and into the height section of a bump node. And then that'll add a little more of that detail. And usually put it pretty strong, but you can mess around with how subtle it is. And there we go. That's our cobweb texture. All done pretty quick. And this has been George. I'll catch you next time. I've been enjoying using these and making some spooky art of my own. Catch me on at GeorgeMakes3D on Instagram, and of course this YouTube channel and the shorts I post here. I'll be posting hopefully some more for the spooky season. Use these in your creepy renders. hopefully you learned something. Hope you make something cool with this new cobweb texture. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.